These 2 boxes of Rallyman are jam-packed with possibilities, and it's my intention to highlight all of the interesting things you can do with them. This is Shakedown. In today's Shakedown, we find out how being confidently incorrect about the rules can open up some new ways to play. For the longest time, perhaps since first cracking open Rallyman Dirt, I have been racing on the assumption that if you find yourself in the lead on a gravel stage, you roll the leader dice instead of the coast dice. It makes sense, right? You are, after all, leading the stage. But those aren't the rules as written. The rules state that the first player each round is the leader and that only the leader rolls the leader dice. So, if you're in second place and manage to overtake the leader, because you haven't been designated as the leader for this round, you still use white coast dice until the round starts where you have been declared the leader. So where did I pick up the idea that as soon as you're in the lead, you roll the leader dice? Did I skim read the rules and assume that's how it worked? Did I get confused by the dashboards being split into gravel and gravel leader sections? Did I learn from a tutorial video that got it wrong? I'm not entirely sure, but I do know one thing. How I thought the rules worked turns out to be how the original Rallyman rules actually worked, and I've never seen the original Rallyman game in person, let alone played it. What else has changed between versions then, and what can that teach us about how else we can play Rallyman? The first place to start is to have a read of the original Rallyman rules, which can be found on BoardGameGeek, and with the help of Gravy's thread in the forums on the differences between versions, we can start to pick out a few rules that are interesting enough to have a look at. The first is, of course, that changes to your dice pool happen instantly rather than on the next turn. That means we'll be changing to leader dice immediately, should we overtake the leader, but it also means that if we take coast die damage going through a shortcut, we have to lose a coast die there and then, potentially making the rest of our turn a little trickier. Speaking of tricky, there are a few rules in here where you might end up knocking yourself out of the rally completely should you break the speed limit on a corner by going much too fast, for example. And while I do like the sound of that, we'll probably want to test out these rules by having our car on the track as much as possible instead. To help with remaining on the track, there is a rule where if a driver draws an OK as a result of going through a gravel shortcut, they end up proving that the shortcut is safe, and now everyone else can follow their route through that shortcut without having to draw any shortcut tokens at all. I think that sounds pretty cool and will change what the first few cars think about when coming up to a shortcut. Finally, for now, is the rule that the drifting spaces of a corner, known here as the skidding trajectory, don't have speed limits but speed requirements. If you don't match the speed, you fall into the inside space or lose control entirely. One of the best ways to try out new rules quickly is to get a load of Dr. Worm NPCs to the table. So each of the R6s are being driven by a difficulty 5 NPC, and they're driving around a Kenyan stage inspired by one created for the original Rallyman on its rectangular boards by AJU26. Hopefully we'll see all of these new old rules in action and maybe decide that we'll want to use them as variant rules in future. Let's find out. What's in store for our red R6? It's got hazard on gears 3 and 4, so it was close to losing control already. Those were its only hazards, however, so it can, if it wants to, show off the speed requirements by using the sliding spaces before the corner and then going through the outside in 4th gear successfully before coming out in 5th and then up to 6th gear. And that's a pretty good start for our NPC as it learns that going around the outside in the required gear is quite easy. It's going to carry on into the next turn. There is a gear 3 jump coming up. Hazards on 3, 4, 6 and a coast die. So again, doesn't lose control. It can break down to 4th gear from gear 6. Can then coast over the jump in 4th, providing it places that coast in that space. And then it can get up to 5th, and that'll be the last gear that it wants to place because of hazards everywhere else. So it's going to put gear 5 in the shortcut. We're going to see what the shortcut token is. If it is OK, then it means that everyone can go through that shortcut without fear of picking up any damage. So it is OK, as are many of the tokens in the damage bag, and that will be its second turn. Next up is the yellow car. The yellow car is on the white coast dice, and it is going to roll a couple of hazards on its odd numbers. It won't end in 5th gear, so it's going to have to do as much as he can to end down the track in gear 4. An unfortunate start for the yellow car. Next round, the red car is going to carry on leading, and it has rolled another couple of hazards in the middle of its gearbox. Let's go with coasting for the minute and then breaking down to 3rd gear for 2 hazards to sit on the inside of the corner. It can't do a whole lot else. The yellow car in 4th gear has a jump coming up, so let's have it drop to 3rd and then go over in 4th, and that will put it into this space. Can then accelerate up to 5th gear for its 2nd hazard, coast around the outside, again in the required gear, and then it can emerge in 6th gear there as it sees the leader ahead of it by just a few spaces. The orange car are going to have hazards on gears 1, 3, 4 and 5 and 6, so it doesn't lose control thanks to the blank gear 2, but it doesn't have a lot of choice as to what it does this turn. It will only be able to get into 3rd gear before it cannot place any more dice. The red car has to pull out a lead lest it be overtaken by the yellow car. I think it can drop all the way down to 1st gear and then come all the way up through the inside in 2nd, out in 3rd, and they're going to use the sliding spaces to get into 6th gear like that. The yellow car is also in 6th gear, and they have a lot of dice to work with. They are going to, I think, drop into 4th gear, and then they are going to go around the outside, but they can't get it all the way through the corner. So if instead they drop into 4th from starting in 6th, they will be able to go around the corner like that and end in 5th gear out the other side. The orange car is heading towards the jump in 3rd gear, and I think it would also like to take that jump in 4th like the cars ahead. It's certainly capable of doing so. From there it can go through the shortcut in 5th, which we know is safe now, thanks to the red car sweeping it clean. That would normally be a shortcut token pull, of course, and it can then emerge in 6th gear like that. On to the start line comes the purple car, and the purple car has got some hazards towards the top end of its gearbox. There shouldn't be too many problems getting all the way up to 6th gear if it wants, so it will end there in 6th gear. The red car leading in 6th gear has to break down to 4th gear for the next corner. 1 hazard on its turn. It's going to maintain the outside speed requirement in 4th gear like that, and it's then, I think, just going to get as far down the track as possible in as high a gear as possible. We'll end there in 6th gear. The yellow car is in 5th gear, and they have hazards on gears 2 and 3 and 5 and 1 and the coast dice, so they have not got the best of turns ahead. Let's see, they want to break down to 3rd gear, and that will be 2 hazards. They wouldn't be able to get around the outside thanks to the lack of coast dice, so they are going to go through the shortcut in 3rd gear, and they can come out in 4th gear like that. Shortcut token is okay, so they have swept the corner and they've made the track a little bit safer for everyone behind. The orange car is next, so they're going to start in 6th, drop down to gear 4, and then meet the requirements on the outside and emerge in 5th in that space there. The purple car has to break down to 4th gear to go over that jump, and luckily for it, both of those dice are fine, so it could do something like that. Because the shortcut is clean, I think you might want to go through the shortcut. So if it goes like that and then like that with its clean coast dice, then use the slide spaces to come up to 6th gear for a strong finish. The blue car has emerged at the starting gate and it's going to go into that space there. Next round, the red car is still the leader and it's got a gear 1, 2 hairpin coming up. Can we get it to 6th gear from where we are? We certainly can. Another 6th gear finish for our leader. The yellow car has been unable to catch up. Can it do any better on this turn? It has a clean set of dice to work with. Let's have it break down to 2nd and then go through the inside in 3rd and emerge all the way over here in 6th gear. It can once again see the leader just ahead. The orange car is next. They are in 5th gear. They have a couple of hazards at the top of their gearbox. What can they do about that? They have a clean shortcut to go through should they want to. So let's have them break down to 3rd gear. That is 1 hazard. They can go through that shortcut safely with their coast dice, and they can get up to 4th gear before they won't be able to place their 5th gear. That is another hazard. So they can emerge there in 4th gear. The purple car is in 6th gear as well, and a 6th gear finish for the blue car. Our last entrant on the course is the green car, and they have rolled a couple of hazards. They too are going to end in this space in 6th gear. Can our lead car maintain the lead? A couple of hazards to get around. They will be able to end in the middle in 2nd gear. Not the best of turns for them, but they do at least block up the course for the cars that are following. That means that this yellow car has a chance to close the distance as they look to overtake at some point in the near future. The orange car is next, and they have rolled hazards on gears 2 and 3. Not enough to worry about. They're going to break down to 2nd gear and come out in 3rd, and they can get all the way up to 6th gear. The purple car is next. They are in 6th gear, like a lot of our cars are. They are going to, I think, break down to 4th. Then they're going to go through the clean shortcut in 3rd gear, and they're going to coast out towards this next corner. Not ideal for the time, having come into that corner just a little bit too hot on the previous turn. The blue car is going to have the opportunity to end in 6th gear as well. Was that wise for the car ahead? Perhaps not. So they're going to end in 5th gear, a space back. The green car was unsuccessful in its jump. It is going to take 2 damage tokens. It is a green flag and a -1 gear. Next round, the red car wants to maintain its lead, and it can do with a dice pool like that. Normally, I would start the turn by dropping into 1st gear and trying to extend the distance. However, this is a speed requirement, so we're going to have to stay in 2nd gear and then coast our way out to the next few corners, or we are going to have to end our turn blocking the course a little. So let's see what we can do to make the life of the yellow car a little bit more of a problem. We can go like that and end in 6th gear. The first car behind is the yellow car, and they are going to try and match that. A little bit slower on the time, but it sets them up for a better run through the next corner. At least that is what they are thinking. The orange car is next to come towards that hairpin. They are in 6th gear. They might as well use it to slow down into 4th, and then around the outside in 2nd gear like that. And they can even put down 3rd gear right behind the front two. The purple car is next. They could drop all the way down to gear 1 and then make it back to gear 6 without losing control. So they're going to end in 6th gear. The blue car is in 5th gear. There is a clean shortcut ahead. There are no hazards in the dice pool. And then emerge 6th like that. The green car has recovered from its spin. They do clog up the corner with mud, but as they are the last car through, that is not going to matter in this game. Next round then, the red car now has 2 cars close behind. They are going to roll a couple of hazards on gears 4 and 5. They want to go around the outside. They're going to break down to 4th gear. That is 2 hazards. They can coast around the outside like that. However, they can't do anything else. Gear 5 is another hazard. They can't place down their 3rd hazard. It may seem like it wasn't the best of turns, but they do manage to block up the course for the cars behind them, so they do maintain their lead. The next car to find that out is the yellow car. They're going to get a 4th gear finish of their own. Behind them, the orange car They're going to do something different. They're going to go into the sliding space in 5th gear and hope that by the time their next turn comes around, they can break through to 3rd gear on the inside and then get past these cars later on. The purple car is going to slow down for the hairpin. They're in 6th gear. They can do that with 6, 5, 4, braking down to 2 for 1 hazard, and then coasting around the outside and emerging in 3rd. The blue car is going to have no problems to worry about. They are in 6th gear. Finally, the green car wants to get into 6th. The red car is in 4th gear, clinging to its lead. However, it's got hazards on gears 4, 5 and 6. So it wants to try to not be in 4th at any point during its turn. It's going to go up to 6th gear like that. The yellow car still has to be in 4th gear in that space there. And it needs to be in 6th over here in order to try to overtake the red car. It doesn't have position on the track for turn order, but we are getting closer to seeing how the leader dice rule works. Next up is the orange car. They do want to break down to gear 3. However, that is 2 hazards for doing so. They're going to sacrifice a 6th gear finish here, but they do get right behind the leaders in 5th gear. And can the purple car do anything similar as well? Ideally, they want to be there in 6th. Can they manage it? They would have to be in 3rd at a maximum there. They are currently in 3rd, so they can coast like that to come around the outside of the orange car. A 6th gear finish for the purple car. The blue car would have liked to have made it a little further around the track on the last turn. As it happens, it can't quite reach the corner. It's going to end in 3rd gear before it. And the green car is going to do much the same as the cars ahead, up to gear 6, heading on to the straight. Things are getting very hectic at the front of this rally. Let's see if the red car can maintain its lead. It's got hazards on gears 4, 6 and one of its coast dice. It can coast in towards the jump like that, go over the jump in 5th to put it there, and then end its turn here in 6th gear. Blocks up the shortcut for anyone trying to tuck in, and the first person who might have done that is the yellow car. They are going to want to maintain 2nd place, of course. They are going to coast. They do want turn order, but if they end here in 6th gear, they won't have the dice to break down to 3rd gear. So they're going to try to take the inside in 5th like that. And it looks like the red car maintains its lead thanks to some strong positioning. Let's find out what the orange car wants to do. The orange car has got a 5th gear start, so it's going to coast out in 5th. It can go into 4th to go over the jump in 5th to put it next to the yellow car. The purple car wants to maintain speed, so it can end its turn here in 6th gear and see what the cars do ahead before it makes a decision as to how to tackle the jump and the corner. The blue car is in 3rd gear and it has a full set of dice to work with, emerging in 6th gear all the way around the other side. And finally, the green car slowing down for the hairpin. It's going to emerge there in 3rd gear. The red car does not have a choice. It needs to break down to 4th gear to go through that shortcut. And I think it's going to coast and then go through the next shortcut in 5th before emerging in 6th gear like that. The worst thing for the lead car there, as it made the stage behind very easy for the cars that follow. The yellow car is in 5th gear. It's going to break down to gear 3. That's 1 hazard on its brake die. It's going to go through this clean shortcut in 4th, and then it can emerge into that shortcut in 5th, unless it wants to try to get 6th gear earlier to maintain its time, in which case it can do something like that, and a 6th gear finish for the orange car. The purple car is next, 5th gear on that one there. What can the blue car do? 6 over the jump, puts it there. The green car all the way up to 5th gear. Unfortunately, it can't place gear 6, thanks to that gear die damage from earlier. The red car is absolutely certain of a finish, so we are not going to see the leader die rule in action. We are going to have it coast over the finish line for a 6th gear finish. The yellow car was unable to overtake the leader. They can drop into 5th for that clean shortcut before coasting out and crossing the line in 6th. The orange car is next. Unfortunately for them, their 3rd hazard would be on gear 6, so they are only going to cross the line in 5th gear, and they have finished this Kenyan stage. The purple car could well do it on this turn as well. A strong 6th gear finish for the purple car. The blue car is in 6th gear as well, and we are going to have to go through the shortcut in 4th gear. Good job, it's been cleaned. We are going to, unfortunately, have lots of hazards on our coast dice. So the best we can do is to coast through and then enter that shortcut in 5th gear like that. The green car has a jump ahead. Do they want to take it in 6th gear as a strong finish for their turn? They probably do. Last round for the blue car. It can easily cross the line in 6th. The green car then is our last competitor. It is going to finish in 6th, which is the last gear 6 time card, so I am going to have to get some scratch paper out for the next part, but it does manage to finish its next turn in just 4 seconds. Let's count up the time and see whether these new old rules are going to be kept or not. It started looking like rallycross towards the end there, but once the dust has settled, we find that our leader in the red car came home in 2 minutes and 43 seconds, ahead of their closest competition in the yellow car. They really did get held up, and the fighting through the shortcuts meant that the cars behind them had an easier and faster time of things. The blue car wins the stage in 1 minute and 49 seconds, and even with the loss of control, the green car just about managed to make it to 3rd place. So what did we learn? I think the obvious takeaway is that you need a completely different attitude to shortcuts if you're going to use the shortcut cleaning rule. In the standard rules, going through a shortcut is generally safe, there are loads of OK tokens, and the front runners have a chance to spray mud onto the corner to make life harder for those following. In these rules, every shortcut you clean, which probably means most of the ones you drive through, gives everyone behind you another route through that corner, and often that's a route that is just as fast as the drifting space is, but they'll only need to place 1 die down, meaning that players can have long turns that end in high gears when you really want them to have short turns that stumble through muddy corners. There might be something to look into here, but it does flip your strategy around a bit, so more testing is needed, I think. And if not more testing, then more thought put into each turn. We didn't see any change of leader or coast die damage through a shortcut, so we didn't see immediate changes in our dice pool, but as this is what I've been confidently incorrect on for a long time now, I think I know how it works even when having not seen it today. As for drifting around corners with a speed requirement rather than a speed limit, I think it should slot into anyone's rallying without too much difficulty, though you might want to run on smaller stages or with fewer cars, because your turn lengths are probably going to be shorter than usual and you'll therefore be pulling more time cards from the pile. If you want to try something else out for yourselves, perhaps shortcuts can be turned into speed requirements as well, or instead. How would that shake the gameplay up? I suspect it'll cause a few blockages, but a change in rules often brings a change in strategy, and a change in strategy teaches you more about a game. That's the main point we've learned. Being confidently incorrect can mean playing a game wrong, yes, but in a casual game of Rallyman, does it really matter? So long as the rules you're racing under are consistent from the start to the finish, you can't really go wrong. If you do spot a mistake, or don't like how or why something happened, change it next time out, simple as that. Some of you will want to play to a tournament standard set of rules, and that's when getting the letter of the law correct is important. So ask away if you're not sure on a ruling, but bear in mind that there are now multiple versions of not only Rallyman, but of its rules, and asking someone who is familiar with one flavour and not another may lead to confusion. But, as I hope you've seen today, in that confusion you can find some creative possibilities that will get you to drive to a different style, or to approach the game with more or less realism, depending on what you want to get out of it. Rallyman really is adaptable to how you want to race, so push it in new directions once in a while. It's capable of a lot more than you might think.